Dynasty the king.
On a night where nothing goes my way, on a night where many things don't go many fantasy owners' way, I didn't need to be confronted before the game by Michael Smith on a wonderful side piece on how the NFL has overlooked Lamar Jackson. Because guess who else overlooked Lamar Jackson? Almost everywhere. In Yacht Club, in every league I'm a part of. The only piece I didn't overlook was Mark Andrews. I've been a fan for a long time. Mark Andrews decides to exit stage left, a la Logan Wilson, drop on his ankle. Mark Andrews, John Harbaugh's reporting, said, Ian Rappaport's reporting that John Harbaugh said it might be or most likely is season-ending ankle surgery for Mark Andrews. This was not my night. And Dylan, I was telling you before the show, one of my favorite movies of all time is Good Will Hunting, specifically for the scene where this really bright, sharp young man who's doing the best he can to be a savant in his industry, I feel very much the same, is brought in by a close counselor, a.k.a. Robin Williams, Matt Damon. I'm playing the role of Matt Damon. Can you be Robin Williams? Bring me in for a hug and just tell me it's not my fault because I can't control injuries. Right, just reaching around. It's good.
Okay. Yep.
It's good.
Yep.
For those of you audio only, Dylan is not kissing me through the phone, but he's giving me a hug through the Zoom. Great song.
I would love to hear how that's interpreted through. Oh, you made a Soldier
6,
Boy
7,
reference?
8. Oh, dude, 6, 7, 8, triple
Dude,
9,
stop.
8, 2,
Let me tell you
1,
guys,
2.
the worst thing that you can do is have Josh Walsh get a song that is relevant stuck in his head because Macklemore is ruined forever. Because this dude, all through prom, Zenna. Oh my God.
That's how the song starts.
The worst. Anyways, yeah, like
you didn't have to catch that much of a stray,
bro. Well, you come on here bringing up these Good Will Hunting references, knowing dang well I don't watch these movies. You know, at least give me like a Scary Hours reference, right? Like Drake's dropping Scary Hours, and give me something that I know that I talk about. Like I don't watch Good Will Hunting or any Will Ferrell movie.
You watch One Tree Hill. Forgive me for not knowing you missed one of the all-time, cinematic classics of the early 90s.
You are not respecting One Tree Hill's phenomenal. It's one of the best shows ever. There's so much.
Stop.
We're not going to talk about this.
Yeah,
I love One Tree Hill.
We're avoiding difficult topics. Mark Andrews, most likely season ending. Joe Burrow wasn't on the injury report whatsoever. I traded for Jamar Chase in tons of places. I have him in dynasty leagues. I have him in redraft leagues because I didn't think Joe Burrow was struggling with injury. I thought he was just now getting healthy from a calf injury. He has a sprained wrist. He's going to be out for I don't know how long. So the Bengals offense completely falls apart. Lamar looks fantastic. And here's why I say I overlooked him. In Cartel, the only dynasty league I was competing in, I took Justin Fields and Jamar Chase ahead of Lamar Jackson. So Mike's segment, I
you took Justin
really
Fields over him?
Yeah, you know this. You were there. Don't act like this is fresh
I know,
news.
It's just you saying it out loud again is just even oof.
Yeah. It's a Thursday night we'll never forget, but we wish we could because this was not fun for fantasy. Even Lamar having a great night, 262 through the air, 2 touchdowns, and of course 54 on the ground. It looked like his ankle got hurt. It didn't look like it. Definitely did. And I personally think he was starting to trip on himself throughout the game. Do you think he gave one of those cortisol shots and his ankle went numb and that's why he was tripping all over himself? That's my
I'm not going to speculate that. No, I think what it is most people have rolled an ankle. If you have a rolled ankle or sprained ankle, whatever, you're kind of wincing in pain anytime you have to plant on it. So I think it was just him not trusting the plant on it. And so he probably just I don't know, he was falling because he was tripping over himself that way. It wasn't no cortisol shock. Get out of here. Speculation.
Yeah. No, it's a tough one. Burrow, his sprained wrist, how long is backup Jake Browning going to have to? I mean, we don't know the length of the injury, but Jamar Chase takes a massive hit. Tyler Boyd, who I thought and looked like last week, a league-winning trade you could do for cheap, doesn't seem like he's going to be able to keep the offense afloat by any means. The only person who I think might not be affected would be Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I mean, before we talk about them, before we talk about the quarterbacks, you having Jamar Chase in some other leagues, most likely if you're a contender with Jamar Chase, what do you do? I mean, you're obviously not selling him, but
no,
do you have to pivot to try to you're not expecting the high end 14, 15 or even like the 20, 30 weeks that he gives you.
Dude,
So what can you expect?
The Bengals had a great end of season. I like that they're in the playoff mix, but not way ahead because there's not a chance to rest the starters. They're going to have to play offense a lot the rest of the season. 2 for 12. Thankfully, he gets a touchdown on like the last play of relevant offense for the Bengals. Garbage time saved his value and saved his day. But dude, you just kind of have to hold because I think even with a backup, they're going to manufacture targets and they're going to manufacture touches for Jamar Chase. Like his first reception was one of those touch passes anyway from Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So it's just that the week winning upside, if you remember his rookie year when he had that like 50-point performance in fantasy playoffs, became a legend for everyone. It happened with him and Joe Burrow, together kind of igniting and being a stack that people rode to championships. It happened in our league. So I had visions of that when I traded for him in places in redraft. I didn't. I traded Stefon Diggs and Gus Edwards literally yesterday for Jamar Chase because I was really good at running back. I was like, Gus Edwards, speaking of Gus Edwards, 2 touchdowns on the ground again. It seems like the Ravens keep it very simple. You got to credit Todd Monken not overcomplicating it. They are great in the red zone because Gus Edwards is a great goal line back. He is the Jamal Williams of last year, this year, and he gives you a little bit extra on the ground, 62 on the ground. Dylan, Keaton Mitchell flashed still in this game, but is Gus Edwards clearly the back to own for the rest of the season in terms of being a league winner for you in Dynasty and elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, with that offense, they're going to be in the red zone quite a bit, and they're not running Lamar in the red zone, which is smart. And so I think he is the goal line back. He has the safest floor of all the backs in Baltimore. I think you could argue he has the highest ceiling with all the touchdowns he's going to get. But Keaton Mitchell has a pretty high ceiling because he can break it off from anywhere, right? That's what we say about Devon Achane. He has the speed and the elusiveness to break it off from anywhere. So the back to own in Baltimore, yes, I would say would be Gus Edwards if you want a safe floor. If you're shooting for upside in like a flex play or whatever and you need points, then yeah, Keaton Mitchell will probably give you those boom weeks, but you're going to have to deal with the 4-point weeks like this week as well.
Yeah, what was interesting when Burrow was in the game, Joe Mixon looked fantastic. He really, really did. He was getting a lot of push because I think the Ravens were expecting them to pass it all over them, but they started and established the run game. Mixon had a very, very good game. I think I already asked it, but with Jake Browning leading the Bengals for, I don't know if it's a week, I don't know if it's 2 weeks, is Joe Mixon, does he actually see a bump in production because they're going to have to become a run-first team? Or is this just going to be 85% of the total offense, 70% of the total offense of what we can expect with Joe Burrow across the board?
So I think I'm going to give a little bit more credit to Browning. I don't think their offense is going to completely collapse. And again, I'm not saying he's going to be the next coming of Joe Burrow. Obviously, the offense is going to look different and he's not going to be as effective. But I think you saw some of the throws that he made and he got thrown into a game, a divisional game in Baltimore. Like, I think he showed some poise. I love that word for quarterbacks. He showed some poise that actually proves that he can, and got to keep in mind that he was
unprepared.
He started off the offseason. Actually, he took a lot of the reps because of Joe Burrow's calf injury. So he has the reps there. I think it's just a matter of can he continue to get better. And that was a Ravens defense that's really good. So going back to Joe Mixon, I think Joe Mixon, you still got to plug in and play. I mean, it's 4 weeks in a row that he's scored a touchdown. Sure. So I think you've got to keep playing him.
No, I think the thing about a Browning, it's very similar. We're going to talk about Deshaun Watson a little bit later, but when Dorian Thompson-Robinson first made his debut for the Browns this season, because it sounds like he'll be starting for them again, there was this big deal made about, okay, he's starting over PJ Walker, and they pointed out that DTR, when he first started for the Browns, he had no advance notice. He had no time to run with the ones throughout the week. He just came in for Deshaun Watson kind of at the last second, didn't have time to prepare. Jake Browning, very much the same thing. It's hard to judge what he can do as a backup because when you come in the middle of the game, you're not at all prepared. You've had 0 reps with the ones throughout the week because it's been Joe Burrow. In fact, I think it's always interesting, Irwin, the receiver for the Bengals, who's been a practice squad guy there for Trent Irwin. Jake Browning was looking for him right away. They probably have a lot of chemistry running with the 2s and the 3s over the years.
You think they're having breakfast together?
Oh, dude, definitely Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp level breakfast. But I'm just saying it's an observation. I don't think in terms of dynasty, you don't have to panic sell on Joe Burrow. You don't have to panic sell on Jamar Chase. Mark Andrews is actually an interesting one for me, Dylan. I'll ask this. I have Mark Andrews in dynasty. I have him in redraft, like I've mentioned, but This is he just turned 28. He's one of the top three, depending on any given week in keep trade cut, dynasty tight end. What do you want to do with Mark Andrews? Is this maybe, it seems like you're selling low, but do you just need to get out while you can? Because over the next 2 years, is Mark Andrews' best seasons behind him, and we just need to admit that and chase younger players at this point?
I don't think his best years are behind him. I mean, he was still producing.
He's producing great.
This injury just sucks, man. Like, it's just, it's a bummer with Mark Andrews. I mean, if it's dynasty you hold, you don't really have an option. I don't think you trade him away.
You wouldn't sell?
I don't think so. You're going to sell him at a low. Like, I mean, tight ends already aren't valued a whole lot unless you're in a tight end premium league. But in Yacht Club, like, so we know the manager right now that has.
We'll get to him. He's going to be a star tonight for all the wrong reasons.
Yes, but we know him. Like, if you were him, would you really try and go and sell Mark Andrews? Like, I just don't think you're going to get what he should, especially not what he bought him for.
Okay, let's put it to you this way. Okay, if this is, so imagine this is Mark Andrews' career arc, right? If we're like, so this is a big bell curve. If we're right here, yeah, you might be selling at a low from this ceiling that you had him at, but how much farther does he slide as he gets older? If the offense changes, if he doesn't come back the same way, maybe he's like right here. He's just beginning the downturn. If you could go trade him for Dalton Kincaid right now,
I don't think he's on the. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, but you're not getting that done. If you can go get a Dalton Kincaid, no. I wouldn't. If I'm the Dalton Kincaid manager, I'm not doing that. Why would I do that?
If I was rebuilding and I wanted it, and I knew next year I had a window.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Good, but he's not great in terms of production and comparison.
So the tight end position, the tight end position is such an interesting position because you can easily replace it. So like, I don't think you have to trade Mark Andrews to find a replacement.
Andrews.
No, but you can replace somewhat of that production. Like I just, if I can hold on to Mark Andrews, I want to try and go get a David Njoku if I can with other pieces on my team, or. I mean, McBride, you're not getting your hands on, but like someone like that, or even maybe try to go make a smooth move for Goddard because he's out right now.
That's a good call.
But I just wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade Andrews. Bottom line.
No, I hear you. We're going to do a study. I want to do a deep dive on tight ends this season because it feels like in the dynasty community, the arrival of Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid, and then the emergence of Trey McBride, Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson, tight ends have been a bigger factor this year, and I want to really look at those numbers because it seems like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and TJ Hawkinson were the only game in town, and there was a massive tier break between Mark Andrews and Kelce. And with Andrews injured, you do have to look at what else is available in the landscape, and that adjusts your perception of him. Because if there's more guys who can produce like he can, he just becomes less valuable, especially if he's missing the rest of the season going into playoffs. So we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to be talking all about tinkering, something that is a bad habit for many dynasty managers, but is often brought on by good reasons like tragic injuries such as tonight. So please stay tuned. You know, one of the most famous books, specifically in entrepreneurial circles, or if you're going to start your own business or, go out and live your dream, move to California, start a coffee shop like Dylan is thinking about doing. You're going to start a coffee shop, right, Dylan?
One day.
Yeah. As a Man Thinketh is probably by James Allen. It's one of the most famous books about, okay, hey, how you're thinking affects everything you do. It trickles down. It's all about the power of belief. If I were to write a book, it would definitely be on fantasy football because I'm already pot committed to this hobby as a whole. But as a man tinker is definitely the question that every dynasty manager needs to ask because the way in which you tinker affects your entire future. The decisions you make today affect the decisions you gotta
explain tinkering because you say when you tinker, it sounds a little weird. When you tinker, explain what you mean by tinkering, please.
What you mean by tinkering is like you can over tinker. You try to mess with your roster. You make little moves.
Yes.
You try to be aggressive. I was gonna explain it all.
It sounds like a bowel movement or something. It sounds like you got to go to I don't know, when you tinker.
Listen, man. Whatever.
You just and we know the terminology, but
I'm pretty sure everyone who plays dynasty football knows what tinkering is. Okay.
You know what? I would like for you guys to comment and let us know if you knew what tinkering means before Josh explained it, or you thought he had to go to the bathroom.
No, Dylan has to use the bathroom, and he's projecting that onto me. We'll rush through this so you can get there. No, listen. I wanted to highlight. So news came out. Frank Reich is now going to take over play calling again for Carolina. And basically, I don't know that this is a story other than it's clear Frank Reich is worried about his job. The Panthers are 1-8, and David Tepper, he already just fired his MLS coach because he also owns a MLS soccer team. He's most likely going to fire Frank Reich at the end of the season. David Tepper is a tinkerer. He has had 3 head coaches since he started with the Carolina Panthers. Forgive me, 4 if you include Wilkes as an interim head coach. But he's not found any success at quarterback. And most importantly, he is 30-61 as a career record, which is the actual worst of the current NFL owners in terms of winning record. He puts him at a .329% winning percentage. How does David Tepper, who is a billionaire, super successful, incredible man, philanthropist in a lot of respects, he's over tinkering with his NFL team. And with your dynasty roster, you can do the same thing. David Tepper, when he first started out with the Panthers, made all these big dynamic moves right away to usher in change. But a year or two later, he just makes big, crazy moves to usher in change from the change he previously made. So, Dylan, I want to pose this question to you. Where have you over-tinkered this season?
Oof, that is a loaded question because we're in a league together, and you can call me Tinker Bell because I over-tinkered my way out of any contention. And that league is the Yacht Club. We've talked about it multiple times on here, but at one point I had Christian McCaffrey, Travis Etienne, Dak Prescott, Alvin Kamara. I had all these pieces to contend. I didn't have any draft capital. Sam Howell. I had all these guys. And in the offseason, you get bored. And when Mike comes a-calling, I come answering. And so we're going to get a deal done. And you know what? I over-tinkered. I traded away some players maybe. Like I traded away Kamara before he came back from suspension. I traded away Etienne before he actually kind of consecutively put these great games together. And so I over-tinkered. I have to, you make your bed, you got to lay in it. So that's kind of where I'm at. But over-tinkering has actually screwed me into the position that I'm in of a rebuild. So, and you know this firsthand.
No, I do. I mean, well, and here's what I would say. When you're in a win now window, it's so much easier to over-tinker, in my opinion, because you're like, I'm one piece away. I'm one depth piece away from feeling really good about my chances. And so you're constantly chasing points. You're constantly chasing an edge week to week. And, as things change, I had an injury here. I need to go get that thing. I need to go get that player. It becomes a lot more simple to be like, wait a minute, I just maxed out the credit card. I just burned through all my future capital in terms of draft picks. Now I'm in a hole. Now I'm really committed to this. And it kind of snowballs into a bigger situation. I wanted to bring this up because we don't bring many people on from our league. You and I talk a lot about our teams. We've had Davis as the value king on, and then we've had B Hunt visit one time. But one owner in particular, who will remain nameless, but I will say he is my golf partner. We are the defending champs as the AZ DILFs, devoting, invested, loving fathers, at the annual golf tournament that we do. So I'm worried about his state of mind because not only is he the Mark Andrews owner and was looking to make a playoff push at 6-3, he lost him this evening. He is also the Josh Allen owner who just lost Ken Dorsey. He is also the Deshaun Watson owner. He is also
it just keeps getting worse.
Pollard owner, the Cam Akers owner. I
Alexander Madison owner.
Yeah, dude. And he's done everything he could to put himself in a championship window. And we thought going into the season, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, 2 top 10 dynasty quarterbacks, certainly Allen a top 3, Deshaun Watson flirting with the top 10. It's all gone to crap and rather quickly. And the question he has to ask, okay, do I try to kind of patch? Oh, by the way, he's also the Justin Jefferson owner. Maybe the biggest piece he has. I forgot to mention that. Kind of important. So when I mentioned Goodwill Hunting earlier, I'm just reaching. It's not your fault, buddy. It's not your fault. It's not nothing you can do.
If you're listening, this is for you. Comfort. Yeah, and totally. To add just a little bit more salt to the wound, he also has PJ Walker. Oh wait, PJ Walker's not starting.
So he has no chance. It just all fell apart in 1 week, right? If he was David Tepper, he would sell Josh Allen right now. He would go make a move to get a win now player. Like, to me, the window for this year is completely closed. But the question is, you're at a pivotal moment for your team. Is this a long, with each of those players, Jefferson, Watson, let's talk about Deshaun Watson first, right? Deshaun Watson, it gets announced after he had the best second half or the best half of football he's had all season, went 14 for 14 in the second half, comeback win over the Ravens. He's out for the season-ending injury. He's obviously going to still be in Cleveland next year because they paid him all the tea in China to be their starting and guaranteed it to be their starting QB. But Deshaun Watson, can you sell him? What should you sell him for?
Bro, you know who Deshaun Watson is? If we gave awards on this show, I would give the Gaslight King award to Deshaun Watson. He got him and his.
That has
they
so many
literally
layers. That has
so many layers. We're not gonna touch it. I'm not touching any other layer other than he has schemed the Cleveland Browns into giving him one of the best for him worst contracts in the NFL. Josh is literally crying in his hands right now.
He's a really convincing guy.
He is a very convincing guy.
Oh my
and
Lord.
He's also convinced dynasty owners to not give up on him. Like after he came out and played that way in the second half, can you really sell him? Like as if you have him as a starting dynasty quarterback, like
I think you're pot committed.
Exactly. Like he didn't look bad, and he was injured.
If you had taken the risk, and we've talked about being an early adopter, you have to make foolish trades at foolish times if you're going to have this crazy winning trade in the long term, because things are going to look stupid when you do them if they are actually a genius move. If you had traded Deshaun Watson for an injured Kyler Murray at the start of the season, today, dude, you'd look like a genius. Dude, Kyler Murray, way more stable situation. Kyler Murray with a great playoff schedule. But there was so much, no one did that, right? With Deshaun, we can't look in a crystal ball. Obviously, he's going to be with Cleveland next year. But if you had to sell him, Dylan, let's say you wanted to tinker and be David Tepper, but not mess it up, right? Sometimes, the difference between Jerry Jones and David Tepper, imagine Jerry Jones doesn't sell Herschel Walker in the 90s and the Cowboys aren't able to have their dynasty. You know what I mean? Maybe he doesn't, maybe he's not still with the Cowboys, right? It's being dynamic is fun, especially, and you and I, we're tradeaholics. You just said it. Anytime Mike comes a call and I come in answering, because you want to scratch the itch for a deal that makes your team better. If this owner wants to scratch that itch, what trade should he make, if he should make any at all?
Oh man, that's a tough one. If you can, the hard part is going to be selling Deshaun Watson, right? Like you got to sell him. If you're meaning like sell him to someone, like say this is why you want to get Deshaun Watson. But if I can, I would probably go and try and trade. If you're a contender, oh, this is going to sound ugly. I would probably try to trade Deshaun Watson for a Derek Carr plus. Like
what about Jared Goff?
Jared Goff is another good one. Jared Goff actually is under the radar. I don't know if you get it done. Like I feel like it has to be like maybe Russell Wilson. Maybe you can get Russell Wilson. I would probably do that. I'd probably trade.
You said Derek Carr. I was going to bring up. Would you trade Deshaun Watson for Jordan Love straight up? They're going to be similar in KTC value. Deshaun Watson had fallen to QB17. I don't know if I would do it.
Well, I mean, if you're a contender and that's like, if you're like we talked about the owner in our league, like he doesn't have a choice. He's got his backup, who he thought was the backup, PJ Walker.
No, if he wants to go do something in playoffs, like he has to just eat the. Yeah,
he should come talk to me and come get Derek Carr. Like that's what I'm saying.
No, he should come talk to me and come get Jordan Love. No,
but to answer your question, I don't think I would. I think I would. I would trade Deshaun Watson for Jordan Love. I think I would do that if I was a contender. Oh no, that sounds so gross.
It's good to hear you say.
Sounds so gross.
Would you trade Deshaun Watson for? I'm trying to think of another name that's over. Man, there's been a lot of quarterback injuries too. Because like I was gonna say, 2-3 weeks ago, Sam Howell, that you probably could have gotten that done. There's no chance.
Yeah, no chance you're getting that done. Geno Smith, you could do Geno Smith, but I don't even think I like Geno Smith. Yeah, or Baker Mayfield. Yeah, Baker Mayfield.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think you sell him. I really don't, because the long-term contract gives him long-term value.
Let me ask you this then. Like, if you're in the same situation as that manager, if you're not going to sell him, do you just kind of call it quits for the season, pack it up, and try to sell him?
I think that's what he has to do, because and we chatted about this before the show. I was asking him, I was like, well, you have Josh Allen. Do you take Josh Allen losing Ken Dorsey? Stefon Diggs is maybe going to be a Cowboy next season. He's already subtweeting that he's like through his brother, like he wants out. Do you trade Josh Allen to one of the top two like contenders, try to give them an edge over one another? And, one of the top two contenders has a Trevor Lawrence. One of the top two contenders has a Joe Burrow. Do you say, hey, I know you have Joe Burrow, I have Josh Allen. Like,
Something to be done there, yeah.
is there something in the middle?
Plus,
Or
yeah,
do you
well, I
just
think
admit it's a lost season and take it on the chin and say, hey, it is what it is. I shot my shot. I will restart next year with pieces to build around.
yeah. Generally speaking, though, what I would say is I think you hold on to Watson. Like if you're a Watson manager, what you saw in the second half of that game, what we saw through the season, yes, it didn't look great, but there was optimism, and I think you can't trade him right now because you're going to get scrapped. So at this point, I say you have to kind of hold on to him, and maybe in the offseason you'll get some more hype and you can sell him then, but at this point, just hold.
So let's just go through this guy's roster, some of the losses he's had. He's lost Justin Jefferson for a period of time. Do you sell Justin Jefferson right now?
No, you don't sell Justin Jefferson.
Do you sell Mark Andrews?
I mean, if we're talking,
Depending.
that's situational. It's depending.
Okay.
Depending.
You see the market for Andrews. But it's also, who buys a 28-year-old win
that's
now
what I'm
piece?
saying.
Yeah, it's like the market's gone.
There's no point.
And that's the other thing as you get closer. Our trade deadline is week 13, and a lot of dynasty leagues experience this. As you get closer to playoffs and as you get closer to trade, like the amount of buyers decreases. The price you can charge certainly increases. Those individual people who only have one or two places to go for a certain type of trade, massive deals get done, but it's not like it's not the offseason. Everyone's not buying for any given reason.
I also think, real quick, I think when it comes to injuries, I think we overreact sometimes to injuries. We play dynasty fantasy football. Like, if you have all these injuries in the NFL, when they have all these injuries, do you see them just selling the farm? No, we play dynasty fantasy football. David Tepper does. Well, that's true.
That's why I'm bringing him up.
I get that, but like with this manager in particular, like he has solid pieces. There's missing pieces, sure, but like don't sell the farm if you don't have to. Try to build and work with what you have, because I mean, with the Josh Allen and Justin Jefferson, Mark Andrews, like that's a good foundation. Like that's a great foundation. Go and see what you can do.
I think that's really that needs and should be the takeaway, because on the flip side of Ken Dorsey getting fired, I didn't talk about this. Joe Brady is taking over as offensive coordinator. Connecting back to David Tepper, who we should all relate to. He was fired by Matt Rule. He was the offensive coordinator for a short time in Carolina, but Matt Rule was scared that he was going to get fired, so he fired Joe Brady instead. Joe Brady was Joe Burrow's coordinator at LSU when they had that crazy season. I've always been a Joe Brady fan. I'm excited to see him, what he can do with Josh Allen and also James Cook and the other pieces of that offense. So there's always a silver lining if you're patient enough. The reason I wanted to bring this owner up and I wanted to go through all those players, Dylan, is like, it's hard not to make moves for guys like you and I. The hardest part about Dynasty is the delayed gratification piece. It's also knowing when to take a risk, because you have to at some point. You can't sit and hold still and just draft players. Like you and Mike make fun of me all the time. I can't trade back into a championship for 5 years. I can't just continue to acquire first round picks and suddenly, all right, here's your trophy. I have to spend those picks, right? So I think my question as we move to Josh Allen, what can you expect not just the rest of the season? If Stefon Diggs were to leave, let's say it all goes to crap, because with this owner's luck, it's trending like it's all going to go to crap based on this week. If Josh Allen loses Stefon Diggs, how much of a hit does his production and dynasty value take? Him being in his prime at 27 years old.
I mean, it's pretty significant, because I would think there's a correlation between Allen's boom weeks and Diggs' boom weeks, and we've seen Allen struggle this year, specifically with interceptions and just making very, very poor decisions. Now, I think part of that can help with Joe Brady and more coaching coming alongside him, but like Ken Dorsey
and getting James Cook going,
Ken Dorsey stepped in for Dayball, and Dayball obviously had something going with Allen that was great. Then we saw him kind of struggle a little bit. So I don't know if it's a coaching thing, but as for Josh Allen, he's still Josh Allen until he's not Josh Allen for me. So I'm not going to panic. Even when he loses, he's going to lose Stefon Diggs at some point. When he loses Stefon Diggs, I'm not panicking on Allen. I think he's a good enough quarterback to figure it out. And he's still going to give you rushing production and rushing upside. And he's making it happen with Shakir and Gabe Davis. And now he's got Kincaid. So I think he's fine.
Yeah. So he should hold to all the pieces that he's lost, eat his lumps, not over tinker, reset and refresh for next year.
Right? This is such a good example of like, don't over tinker. Because it's so easy to, like we've talked about and highlighted, like this whole section is like, it's so easy to over tinker, but like, and sell those guys, like a lot of those guys, but like, does he really have to? Maybe one, maybe two, just trade the right one. Like,
Yeah, I think it comes to, here's when you should trade a player, and I'm learning this more and more. You shouldn't trade a player just because there's a market for a player. You should trade away a player if the market is higher than your belief in that player. Whatever that line is, right? Like we've talked famously about my love of Justin Fields, Jordan Love, George Pickens. Like what I see in George Pickens, the market has never been like, here's Josh's belief in George Pickens. I'm holding, for those of you audio only, I'm holding my hand very high. Now I'm using my other hand higher than the previously held hand where my belief was. The market has never been higher than my belief in him, right? So I think Deshaun Watson would be the only one to me that's interesting. If there's a believer out there that will give you multiple firsts in 24, maybe that's something you need to re-roll with, because you've talked about it at length. Deshaun Watson looks nothing like the Deshaun Watson of old, controversy, early years with the Texans. He doesn't seem like he's that guy anymore. And
well, I think we've got to temper expectations for him. Like if you're expecting him to be that, you're only going to be disappointed.
The Cleveland Browns certainly were, and so I think many of us in the dynasty community certainly were.
But this is my PSA. If you are expecting Deshaun Watson to be a top 5 quarterback, and A, that's what you want to trade him away for if you're going to trade him, or B, you're expecting him to be that on your team, you're stuck with him. Like you're stuck with him. Like you're not going to be able to deal him because no one's going to pay that top 5 upside. No one believes in that.
All that being said, tinkering is something that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It's easy to fault Tepper because we can see his career record. Dylan, for you and I, our career records, they're going to become public as and more widely known as this show grows. So hopefully all the moves we make are seen as dynamic, long-term, franchise changing in the best way. And, Fantasy Receipts doesn't keep all of our swings and our misses. But we've had a few this season, and no doubt we're going to have a few more. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Dynasty Exchange. We look forward to the rest of the season, even though this Thursday night definitely made me regret this hobby in more ways than one. I will rally, and we will be back on Monday. Thanks again.